The leopard's yellow eyes gleamed intensely, its muscles tensed beneath its spotted fur, ready to pounce. A few steps away, a golden retriever stared at the enormous feline that she herself had nursed years before. Silence filled the entire sanctuary. No one dared to breathe. An attack seemed inevitable, and the dog wouldn't stand a chance. But then, the leopard made an unexpected sound. The unthinkable happened before everyone watching. If you enjoy these types of stories, please like and subscribe to the channel to help me bring you more stories like this. Turn on notifications and leave a comment below to let me know what you thought.
It all began 4 years earlier at a feline sanctuary in southern Africa. A leopardess died during a difficult birth, leaving 3 tiny cubs, still blind and too weak to survive on their own. The staff knew that hand-rearing orphaned leopards was nearly impossible. They needed constant milk, body heat, and, above all, the touch of a mother. That's when the sanctuary director remembered Lucy, a golden retriever who had just finished weaning her own litter a few days before. Still full of milk and with her maternal instincts at their peak, Lucy was their only hope. The staff placed the 3 spotted babies, fragile as kittens, close to the dog's belly. What happened next left everyone speechless. Lucy sniffed, carefully licked each one, and without hesitation lay down, curling her body around the little ones. Within minutes, the leopards were nursing strongly, clinging to her golden fur. The dog accepted the 3 as if they were her own, beginning one of nature's most improbable adoptions. In the following days, the bond only grew stronger. Lucy licked the still faint spots on the pups, warmed them during the cold night, and protected them with her whole body. The team watched with emotion as the babies, who would have died within hours, gained weight and strength, thanks to the milk and love of a mother from another species. At that moment, no one imagined how many lives that decision would save, and how it would forever change the history of that sanctuary.
The following weeks transformed the sanctuary's kennel into a daily spectacle. The 3 leopard cubs grew quickly, and soon they were climbing Lucy's broad back as if it were tree trunks. The golden retriever remained motionless, patient, while the small, sharp teeth tested her ears and tugged at her golden tail. When the play became too rough, she would give a low, firm growl. Immediately, the little leopards would stop, lower their ears, and curl up against her chest, apologizing with licks. Lucy taught them everything a mother knows. She ran slowly across the lawn so they would chase her, stopped suddenly so they would learn to break, rolled on her back so they could practice attacking for fun. At night, the 4 slept huddled together, 3 spotted bodies purring loudly and a golden retriever breathing calmly in the center. Staff who came in to feed them stopped at the door, unable to believe what they saw. Natural predators being raised by a domestic dog with more affection than many mothers of their own species. At 4 months old, the pups were already twice Lucy's size, but they still nursed and sought her warmth at nightfall. The photos taken by the team circulated throughout the sanctuary. No one could explain how a domestic animal could maintain such discipline and affection over 3 future top hunters. For Lucy, however, there was no difference. They were simply her babies, and she loved them with every beat of her golden heart.
Around 8 months old, reality began to hit hard. The 3 leopards already weighed over 40 kilos each, surpassing Lucy in height and strength. What had once been puppy games now caused them to knock the dog down with a single leap. When chasing butterflies or leaves, they would run at almost 60 kilometers per hour in just a few meters, and an accidental stumble could break the golden retriever's ribs. The team gathered in silence. The time for separation had come. On the appointed day, they took the leopards to a larger enclosure, separated by high fences and a service corridor. Lucy followed the transport, barking desperately, trying to jump the fence, her paws scratching at the metal. When the gates closed, she stood there motionless, staring intently at the cubs as they moved away. The leopards, on the other side, paced back and forth, emitting sharp, distressed meows that echoed through the night. For the first time in months, Lucy slept alone, huddled in a corner, refusing food. In the following days, the dog spent hours beside the fence, her snout tucked between the bars, whimpering softly. On the other side, the 3 young leopards responded with the same cub sounds, rubbing their heads against the metal whenever they saw the golden shape. The team knew they had done the right thing for everyone's safety, but seeing that mother separated from the cubs she had saved broke the heart of anyone who witnessed it.
Months turned into years. The 3 leopards had grown into magnificent adults, nearly 100 kilos of muscle, claws capable of tearing metal, and speed that made the ground tremble. They hunted live goats in seconds within the expanded enclosure, roared at dawn, and patrolled the territory with the arrogance typical of big cats. Lucy, now with a gray muzzle, still spent part of her days near the fence that separated the 2 worlds. Sometimes I would lie there, watching silently, as if waiting. The team didn't even try to move her away anymore. On the other side, the leopards seemed to have forgotten their cub days. When staff approached, they growled softly and kept their distance. They were complete predators, dangerous even to those who had fed them since they were small. No one dared enter the enclosure without tranquilizers at hand. The dog that had once been the center of their universe now seemed like just a distant memory, erased by the power of the wild instinct that had finally fully awakened. The sanctuary director, seeing Lucy grow old alone, even considered transferring her to another area, far from that fence that only brought sadness. But something always prevented her from signing the order. Deep down, everyone felt that the story between the golden retriever and her 3 spotted puppies was not yet over. And nature, when it wants to, knows how to be patient.
4 years after their separation, a historic storm hit the region. Torrential rains for 3 consecutive days turned paths into rivers and felled centuries-old trees. In the early morning of the 4th day, lightning struck the sanctuary's main transformer, knocking out lights and alarms. In the chaos, one of the side railings of the service corridor was ripped away by the floodwaters, opening a passage that no one immediately noticed. When the first staff arrived with flashlights, the tragedy was already underway. Lucy had disappeared. The elderly dog, sensing the opening, crossed the flooded corridor and reached the feeding ramp that led directly to the leopard's main enclosure. The 3 felines, restless from the noise of the storm, were gathered at the highest point of the grounds. Suddenly, a golden figure emerged from the shadows, wet and panting. Lucy stopped a few meters from them, her tail down, her paws trembling from cold and exhaustion. The staff who were running after her froze. There was no time for tranquilizers, no gate to close. One of the leopards, the largest, stepped forward. Its fur dripped with water, its eyes reflecting the next lightning bolt. It lowered its head, the muscles of its back rippling, ready for the fatal leap. Lucy didn't flinch. She merely raised her snout and let out a short, hoarse whine, exactly the same sound she used to call her babies when they were small. The silence that followed was louder than any thunder.
The leopard froze. The roar that was about to escape died in its throat. Instead, a sharp, trembling meow came out, that hoarse, childlike sound that only cubs make when calling for their mother. The second leopard responded immediately with the same meow, then the third.
In seconds, the three spotted giants were running towards Lucy with their bodies low, ears back, and tails raised, just as they did when they were babies running to nurse. The employees, still paralyzed a few meters away, saw something they would never forget. The leopards arrived sliding through the mud and, instead of attacking, began rubbing their enormous heads against the chest and neck of the elderly dog. They purred so loudly that the sound drowned out the rain. One of them lay on its back, exposing its belly, while another pressed its snout against Lucy's face, licking the water droplets as if cleaning its cub. The trembling golden retriever only wagged its tail slowly and licked the stained snouts, one by one, as it had done every night years before. The scene lasted minutes that felt like hours. None of the three predators showed a single sign of aggression. On the contrary, they moved with exaggerated caution, as if they knew they were now too big and could hurt their frail mother. One of them even lay down on the ground and gently pulled Lucy with its paw so that she would lie between them, forming once again the golden, mottled ball of yarn that had slept together years before. The storm was still raging, but there, in the middle of the enclosure, there was only warmth, recognition, and a love that time had not erased.
When the rain finally subsided, the team managed to open the emergency gate and enter with nets and tranquilizers, but no one dared to use them. The three leopards remained lying around Lucy, protecting her from the cold wind with their enormous bodies. One of the staff members, with tears in his eyes, simply closed the gate behind him and let the reunion continue. For almost 2 hours, the dog and her lost children played as if time had turned back. The leopards chased Lucy's wet tail with careful leaps, rolled in the grass so she could sniff their bellies, and even lay on their sides so the elderly golden retriever could lick their ears as she did when they were puppies. Lucy, even tired and soaked, seemed rejuvenated. She would run a few steps, stop, look back, and let out that short calling bark. The three would come immediately, lowering their heads to receive affection. Not a scratch, not a growl. The leopards moved with an absurd delicacy for animals capable of taking down a full-grown buffalo. When Lucy finally lay down exhausted, the three nestled around her, forming a perfect circle of protection, just as they did when they all fit inside a single basket. The director, observing everything from behind the fence, made a historic decision. From that day forward, the security protocol would be changed. Lucy would have supervised access to the enclosure twice a week, always with an armed team as a precaution, but she would never again be kept completely separated. The storm had destroyed fences, but it had also brought down the last barrier separating that unlikely family. Weeks later, the supervised encounters became routine. Every Tuesday and Friday, at dawn, Lucy would cross the service corridor with her tail wagging slowly, already knowing the way. The staff would open the inner gate and step back. In seconds, 3 spotted figures would emerge, running from the back of the enclosure, meowing loudly like giant puppies. They would jump around the dog without ever touching her forcefully, rub their heads against her chest, and lie down to receive licks on their snouts. Authorized visitors, positioned on an elevated platform, watched in absolute silence, many with tears streaming down their faces. As the months passed, Lucy's health began to show signs of improvement. Her fur regained its shine, her appetite increased, and she even ran short distances when the leopards provoked her with sideways leaps. The veterinarians couldn't find a complete scientific explanation, but they noted extreme emotional stimulation. As for the leopards, previously wary of any human, they began to tolerate the team's presence during the reunions as long as Lucy was among them. When the dog lay down, the 3 formed a protective triangle, one on each side and another behind, like guards of an elderly queen. The story spread around the world through photos and videos taken by the staff themselves. Thousands of people began visiting the sanctuary just to see, even from afar, the golden retriever walking calmly among 3 of Africa's most feared predators. What was meant to be just a temporary measure became a permanent attraction, and above all, living proof that first love can leave a deeper mark than any wild instinct.
Today, years after that storm, Lucy walks more slowly, her muzzle almost entirely white, but she still enters the enclosure twice a week as if she were the queen of the place. When the gate opens, 3 adult leopards, weighing almost 100 kilos each and capable of killing with a single paw strike, transform immediately. They lower their bodies, meow like cubs, and run to throw themselves on the ground next to the golden retriever. They lie down carefully, press their enormous muzzles against her chest, and purr so loudly that the sound travels throughout the entire sanctuary. Lucy licks each one of them, one by one, exactly as she did when they all fit inside a cardboard box. There is no magic explanation, only the strength of a love that was born at the right time, in the right place, between a mother who had milk to give and 3 cubs who needed to survive. The instinct to kill never disappeared in leopards. It simply learned to be silent before the only creature in the world they recognize as family. Nature is harsh, but sometimes it allows gaps where the impossible fits. An elderly golden retriever walking calmly among 3 of Africa's largest predators, protected only by the love she planted when they were still blind and frail. This story reminds us that family isn't about blood or species. It's about who was there when we needed them most, who warmed us when the world was too cold. Lucy and her 3 spotted children continue to prove this every day, in every reunion, in every lick, in every purr that echoes through the sanctuary. A mother's love, when true, is the only force that can break through bars, years, and even the wildest of instincts. If you enjoyed the story, please like it. Subscribe to the channel to help me bring you more stories. Turn on notifications and comment with your thoughts, tips, and suggestions in the comments. Take the opportunity to binge watch the other videos on the channel. There are many exciting stories waiting for you.